Welcome to listening to Paint Dry with Mike and Dan, a podcast about the art and hobby of miniature painting. I'm Mike.
And I'm Dan. Thank you very much for joining us on our continued quest to become better, braver, happier painters.
Hey Dan, guess what?
What?
It's been 2 years.
2 years?
Yep, January 28th is our second anniversary. We've been at this thing for 2 whole years.
Well, if you count the year it took you to get the first episode, it's kind of like 3 years.
Oh. Okay, I'll give you that. It's a fair point. It took me quite a while to get that first episode out. But anyways, are you interested in some statistics?
Of course, I'm always interested in stats.
So just so you know, combining all the mini episodes, special episodes, and the regular episodes we produced, we now have over 80 hours of content in 54 downloadable episodes. And we've also interviewed 41 artists, and we've hit over 95,000 downloads.
And we have, what, 6 listeners?
So yes, they are. No, actually, remember, we got up to double digits. We may have lost a few. We may have lost a few because of some of the bad humor we've had and some of the terrible jokes. But we really appreciate those. We'll say between 7 to 10 listeners who have just been downloading the episode like crazy. And what would it be, a podcast, without my dog barking in the background?
Of course.
So, yep, but that's pretty cool, I thought.
Yep. We're really not going to waste any more time blabbering on. Let's get to this interview.
All right, it sounds good to me, man.
So, dear listeners, it's my pleasure to introduce world-renowned miniature painter, founder of Massive Voodoo, an amazing teacher, artist, and friend, Roman Lappat.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, everyone.
This is so awesome. When Dan and I first originally started hashing out the idea of the podcast, you were one of the first people like, oh, we got to get Roman on. So we're really excited that you're going to be here to celebrate our second anniversary with us, which is just totally awesome.
I feel very honored to be with you finally. I remember you asked me earlier, and I wasn't finding the right time and moment. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you. Yep. We figured it would play out at some point. And so if you wouldn't mind, could you give our listeners a little bit of your hobby origin story?
Sure. My name is Roman. And in the meantime, I always loved miniature painting. But when I started actually with being a kid and finding Star Quest at a friend's place, and got really fascinated by Space Marines, of course, and started painting them with Revell paints and really cheap paints with toothpicks because I had no brushes. And then I kind of lost this hobby again. So, and when I was around 17 or something, I found a hobby store close in my hometown and entered the hobby again, you can say, and made a lot of friends there, played games and started painting again. This is how I was drawn into the game. You can say with Hero Quest and Star Quest, and then, of course, Warhammer, 40K and fantasy, the good old days. And Wartime. I loved Wartime very much. So, yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Excellent. And I remember a few years ago, you had posted a picture of you holding a model airplane with your grandfather. Did he kind of start you out in model airplanes, or will you talk to us a little bit about that?
That's actually true. I mean, my granddad, he kind of, you can say when I was like 5 or 6, up to 7 years old, he kind of showed me his hobby. His hobby was like plane building, scale modeling. And he, I still remember, I mean, he's gone in the meantime. He was a great granddad, and he showed me how to build them. And he was always like, when he finished one, he was hanging them in the roof, in the living room under the roof. My grandmom, she was really angry with him about it. There were so many planes, and it was a great hobby for a granddad and grandson. And he always also took me out in nature very often. So he showed me these two things that I, in the meantime, love in my life, like nature, observing nature, being comfortable in nature and finding peace in nature, and also taking time for or investing time to focus on one thing. And he actually put that brick down in the basement, yes, you can say.
That's very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I noticed that on one of your other Instagram accounts, Tale of the Banana Whale, it's a lot of beautiful nature pictures and things that you observe as well.
Thank you.
So what made you decide you wanted to take your painting to the next level?
This is a hard question. It's hard to answer because what is the next level? So I think as soon as you do something, whatever it is, maybe drawing, painting, working out, whatever, you will always hit the next level by just doing it. And I think with painting, I felt it coming when I was in gaming actually, and I was like painting my first unit. The second unit looked differently because I learned a lot of things and changed my way of painting. The third unit, I didn't like the first unit when I finished the third unit, so there was no consistency in my army painting. That's why I never properly played actually, because I rather enjoyed painting more. So I would always say there was no decision to get better, you can say. I just got better while doing it and enjoyed just the process of always finding new inspiration and new techniques and putting more things in my toolbox, you can say. This made me grow. I mean, you can say painting made me grow in painting. But there was never a decision of saying, now I want to hit the next level, because I learned for myself that you cannot force a next level, a level up. It will just happen when some things fall in place, and they fall in place individually. Like Mike, for example, will have a click moment in next year in this topic. I will have a click moment in 2 weeks about this topic, and then we'll have a click moment about the topic in 2 years or something. It's just like how everybody's individually evolving, and so there is no next level in sight, you can say.
Nice. So that kind of changes the nature of the next question. Were there any techniques or anything that as you were developing that you kind of struggled with? I know one of the common themes that people here are like, for me, it's wet blending. I know people have non-metallic metals and things along those lines that they struggle with. Were there any of those type of techniques that you felt were challenging, and if so, kind of how did you push through them?
You can say there was not a certain technique I struggled with. I always struggled with patience. Means if you take enough time to learn something, you will get better in this. It's working with non-metallic metal or so on. You just have to study the topic, and then you have to throw in time and invest time, and then you learn. So I can say I don't like to paint non-metallic metal because it takes so much time, and I'm not a patient person. I struggled with, for example, while I grew to the painter I am today, a lot of people told me, "Hey Roman, you have to paint more smooth blendings. You have to do this. You have to do this, and these are the rules, and you have to go this way." And I can say I struggled once really hard where I was like following this path when I tried to follow rules of others, and I got really unhappy, kind of depressed, you can say, in my painting mood. And I got out of there actually with Alfonso Giraldo's help. Actually, Alfonso healed me by telling me my own nature as a painter, and he showed me that I can paint differently than just paint like who I am. So I can be brave, I can be bold, I can use brush strokes, and enjoy painting miniatures in my personal approach. And this really was the hardest task I had to conquer, and it freed me. So Alfonso brought me freedom in that. So that's where I found myself.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Can you talk about how you got into teaching miniature painting?
This is actually connected to my studying. I studied to become a teacher actually for art and art history. And when I was studying, I had to make a decision on how I want to make money during university. And I actually started to paint armies back then for friends and everything. So this was actually how I got through university and earned some money. And in the end, I came out as a teacher. And I really enjoyed teaching with kids in school and everything, and had a lot of practical exercises, but never was happy with the content I was forced to teach when I worked for the state or something. And a lot of friends started to ask me, hey, Roman, would you like to do a workshop, for example, in Austria or Germany? And with my teaching background, I decided to give this a try. And I never became a teacher for the state. Just became a teacher for miniature painting, and that's what I'm doing since 2009 now. And I'm loving it, you can say. It's really a wonderful thing to show people insight into what I do, because they can level up and I do level up while teaching.
Yeah, that's was going to be my follow up. Like, how has teaching impacted your your painting?
It's crazy. It's really hard to describe, because the more you teach, I really taught a lot of students in the meantime, and every time I learn something new, I have these click moments where I have to find the perfect way to explain one thing to one individual person, because you always have to know there are 4 different types of students. There's one student who learns by listening. There's one student who learns with practical exercise. And there's one student who learns with visual examples like pictures. And then you have the 4th one, which is a combination of these. So trying to find the ways to explain my information that I want to teach to everyone really brought down or taught me that there are so many different ways to reach a goal. And this helped me also for my painting, because I now see, okay, this most important for me is the goal. And then there are 1,000 ways to reach that goal. There is not only one way, which is the right way. There are different ways, and different students need different ways to get to that goal. And this was really a wonderful lesson I learned from teaching, to accept that this is individually and happens individually.
Is there a favorite topic you like to teach?
The one with the biggest click moment, yes. I realize that very often in the meantime for private lessons or everything, I get the same questions appearing, like, hey, I want to learn how this all connects better. I don't want to paint with receipts anymore. I'm kind of stuck. I feel hitting a wall. And I, for my part, learned I have this one topic which is called about how to paint atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And this is really something I do teach a lot, because it helps the most. It kind of gives an insight, or no, it just opens the eyes of my students. It's just like, hey, the world of miniature painting or painting overall is not happening only on your miniature. It's actually connected to nature. When you look at things like I did, for example, with my hobby photography, I learned to understand how light influences, for example, a leaf or a tree or a bird or a stone. And then you understand, okay, environment and light play together. And if in this lesson, I try to transport this knowledge that your eyes can observe things to miniature painting. And this is just an eye opener. It's just like, okay, what have I done before? I was just cooking with receipts and not enjoying cooking. This is my main favorite topic that I like to teach, because my students gain most of it.
That's a great way. That's one of the great ways of putting it. The cooking analogy actually kind of sunk in there. Is there a topic that you haven't taught yet that you would like to teach?
Many. I mean, the things are rushing in my brain every time I teach a private coaching here, a workshop there, a group workshop there. I have new ideas of how I can implement new knowledge, my own journey into the next topic I will teach. For example, I just had this recently. I was teaching a longtime student of mine. He wanted to understand why Frank Frazetta, for example, can paint with every color in the color wheel and achieve great results by just throwing in every color in there. And I was actually also studying this topic some years ago, but not in depth. I never thought I could understand Frank Frazetta more. And so I was preparing myself for this lesson. And we actually analyzed Frank's work, which is amazing. We analyzed it in terms of recreating the colors he used from the color wheel. And actually, we just painted with 6 colors, you can say. We used yellow, purple, and blue and orange, and black and white. And we were able to recreate and mix everything. We kind of copied his paintings in just color plan, in a color plan and a guide. And then we understood how to transport this to miniature painting. This opened up like an endless possibility also for my way of painting. In that actually coaching, I just had these click moments myself. And I want to teach that in the future as soon as I'm able to teach it. I mean, it takes time to let this sink, to understand what I'm doing there, and then I'm able to teach this. And I hope this day will come one day.
Hey, you bring up something really interesting there, Roman. When we learn like new painters, we come in and we're like, okay, well, today I need to know how to do line painting. I know now I have to learn how to do glazing, and now I have to learn how to do these different techniques. When you talk about your students, and it just the way you explain it, it's a different level of learning. The approach of the whole atmosphere and how everything works together. Does someone have to have an awful lot of experience, or have a lot of experience in miniature painting in order to take one of your courses, or to be a good painter and get where they want?
I would say it depends. Of course, the techniques in miniature painting are important, as they are in drawing and in everything. Technique is one thing, and important thing. So the more knowledge you have in techniques, the easier you can approach a theoretical, deeper approach on painting to understand it deeper. But I mean, I've encountered students who never touched a figure before entering one of my workshops. And I've seen people who have a lot of technical knowledge, and the person with not too much knowledge did not struggle at all and understood everything very well. But if you learn too much techniques without making them yours, what I mean is a lot of techniques nowadays with all the YouTube information and the fast information, it is just consumed. So you watch this video, you watch this technique, you watch this. And when you paint this, it might take 2 years to understand wet and wet blending perfectly. With perfectly, I mean it is a part of you, and you don't have to think about it while you do it. This is actually when you learned it, when you can just use this as a tool. And a lot of people who learn too much techniques or consume too much technical knowledge too fast, they are confused. They think the technique is the golden rule, and I have to follow it all the time. And with such a strict, I would say strict prison, you limit yourself, because then you cannot open up for a different approach to reach a certain goal. So a technique is always, it's just a goal. Like a blending, there is no blending technique. I would always say, blending is the result of different techniques. You can reach a blending with your fingers, or paint it with your toe. So,
yeah, man, I got to tell you, that the way you explain that hit so close to home, because probably my biggest regret was I didn't do a very good job of learning from your beginner's workshop. I got stuck in stuff that I had heard before instead of actually listening to what you were teaching. And I wish I could go back and just blank slate into that class, because even now I'm still like, it's been 3 years since we took that beginner workshop, and I'm still having aha moments from it. And I feel like I probably would have gotten so much more out of it if I would have just, you know, went in there with a completely open mind and didn't really, kind of, I didn't do a good job listening to you in that. So that just really kind of hit home. I'm like, I could be your case in example.
Mike, I have to interrupt you. Stop regretting anything. I mean, you are on your own journey. You are doing your journey. You took that class once. You maybe take another class of mine. You learn from other people. This is your journey, and your journey is just on the right path. Don't regret anything. You can always open your eyes, and when you say, "Hey, I have a hit. This hits home, and I understand this thing from nature now." Yeah, then something is achieved. But there is also no golden path that you have to follow, and because regretting doesn't bring you anything.
That's okay. A fair point. That's a fair point. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I still do the same thing that you do. I'm a big fan of the whole just dump and wash on the base and moving it around with hands and stuff like that. I was, when I saw you do that, I was like, sign me up for his newsletter.
So I'm going to actually follow that up real quick. So as you were all talking, I was scrambling on trying to find my notes, and Mike and I were we're getting ready to plan some classes, some more podcasts, and there was something that was said in some training that I took a couple weeks ago that I wanted to do a show about, but I'm going to bring it up here. But I still think we can do a show about this, and it goes right along the lines of what you're saying about seeing so much information, seeing so many different techniques and everything. You just get kind of bobbled up. And someone said when seeking advice, you get a lot of different answers, but you got to find yourself. You might know, if you say, hey, what's the best way of blending, for example? Well, there might be 20, 30 different techniques or different ways of doing it, but you really need to find that one, because if you start, if you do 10% of this person and 20% of this technique, maybe it doesn't come out right. It reminds me of that car that Homer Simpson tried to make when he got all the perfect things together and it just looked horrible. It's but if you just find that one that really just melds with you and one that really works, that's what you should be working on, rather than trying to gather all the information and try to implement it, because it's just too much.
Yep. And as soon as this one technique that fits for your personal individual style, and you enjoy it and you learn from it, and as soon as this hits home and lands in your toolbox, you can use it without thinking. Then you can just check for a new technique or try something else, because then you have a foundation from which you can just pick energies and always be secure in what you do. If you always try new techniques a new technique each week because you have seen 1,000 YouTube videos, then you will end up like a mess. You will not learn from it.
That is fantastic advice.
Thanks, Dan. That was a great addition. That was really, it's just like, it's a very important topic that that a lot of painters out there or people everywhere, not only painters, we are confused because too much information. So sometimes you have to just shut information off and just do.
Yeah, and it goes back to that the 90-10, 10% reviewing and studying, and then 90% doing in practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I'm so glad we're doing this interview. I'm learning so much already. So, one of the common themes that we get, Roman, when we talk to artists is when they started out, one of the first places that they found was Massive Voodoo, and countless, of our former guests immediately cite that website. Can you talk to us about how it kind of got started? I know you started, I believe, with Raphael Pica.
Right.
So yeah, but please, we'd love to hear kind of the Massive Voodoo origin story.
I was actually running around in German forums back then when I started and started with my self-employment. So I was actually kind of, you can say, serving or working in 5 different forums, and information was spread everywhere. And people asked me here and there, and then I wrote an article there. I copied it to this forum and so on. It was really like a mess in organization. And I decided to kind of do a homepage for myself where I can collect this information and people can find all the information quicker, and I will have less stress actually, because I'm losing hair when I have stress, and I don't have much hair left. There was a German joke, not a good one, but I tried German jokes. So actually, and Rafa back then, I met Rafa as a student of mine on one of my workshops, and he was the craziest, talented students I've ever met. He was like asking the most questions ever, and he fulfilled the task. Awesome, it was really crazy. And we kind of got friends after this, and we also we found out that we are from the same town, and we met very often for painting. And Rafa back then told me, hey, Roman, why don't you do a blog? The blog was something pretty new back then in 2006, 7, pretty new. And he said it was more dynamic than a homepage. And so I started blogging with Massive Voodoo back then. So Rafa asked me also, hey, you have to find a name. And I just came up with Massive Voodoo. I don't know why. It just came out of me. I have no idea. And I was doing this for 2 weeks alone. And then I asked Rafa if he would join me because it's so boring alone being on a blog. And that's how actually Massive Voodoo started. But there is no real reason for that name. It should sound massive. It does sound massive. And voodoo is kind of, for me, it's kind of a magic that happens. And we kind of connected it with monkeys because we were younger than we are right now. And back then, with monkeys as your avatars, you can do a lot of stupid things without making people angry because we're monkeys. So right. That's actually, and the name fitted perfectly to that kind of style that we kind of worked on, and it was really an enjoyable time. It was.
That's fantastic. It's grown over the years. It's really just impressive. And the number of times that people are like, hey, how do you paint this? And inevitably on Facebook, somebody asks a question in a group, and inevitably a link to an article from Massive Voodoo pops up from somebody. Like even today, somebody asked a question in a forum on skin painting, and David Powell, who I think is an absolutely amazing artist too, put a link to a Massive Voodoo tutorial.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We kind of also decided to not put things in front of a paywall or something. We just decided if we want to go on a journey with everyone who wants to read on Massive Voodoo, and that journey should be a free ride for all the experiences we also do, or we also went through. So you can read about fails there, you can read about mistakes that we learn from, and Massive Voodoo grow from itself, and that's something beautiful. But on the other hand, you can say nowadays, even if it's linked up and everything, kind of life took over. That Massive Voodoo is not the same like it was in the first 4 to 5 years or something. As we all don't have the time to invest there. Rafa, in the meantime, he's not even with miniatures anymore. He's working in normal industry and also in an artistic creative business, but he has to feed his family. And from a self-employment in miniature painting, you have to you have to learn discipline to really be able to make a life from it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know one of the things that they always talk. Sorry, Dan, I'm keeping going, but one of the big differences that I hear a lot of U.S. painters that make that choice say, like the world of health insurance is a huge thing. That in Europe you have the state health insurance, but here in the U.S. if you decide to go out on your own and with no job and do miniature painting, that you break a leg, it can bankrupt you. you know.
Yeah, or just let something happen with your eyes, just an accident with your eyes, and it's really
Yeah.
it's not the most secure place to be but it's also a kind of a way of life, you can say, deciding that you take these risks and have benefits from it because you have freedom in your decisions sometimes. You can work with your art. You will learn to. You will hate your art. You will have moments where you don't like to paint, but you will push through these and learn from it and grow from it. So it's a really it is a hard decision that can bring a lot of benefits, but also insecurity.
Truth.
Yeah. So Massive Voodoo actually is still Massive Voodoo. Of course, we just today a new member did join the blog, and we will publish him soon. But it's kind of not it doesn't receive also from the community nowadays. It's still there. It's you can say like a big old mountain with a lot of gold inside.
Yes.
But YouTube and other information, it goes faster, it's quicker, it's changed a little bit, so Massive Voodoo doesn't get the same attention as it did before, and which is not a bad thing. We are actually in the team, we are actually planning on the future of Massive Voodoo, what Massive Voodoo will become from now on, what it will be. Will it be blog posts still on, or will it be maybe, for example, also a podcast group or whatever? We will plan on such things also to go with the future, you can say. So
You definitely keep.
Oh man, you do a podcast, you're gonna kill us.
Yeah, right. You'll put us out of business.
Yeah, jeez.
No, I won't. Don't worry. But it's funny because every time I meet up with my Massive Voodoo friends and everything, or just having a call, we have such deep, interesting talks also from the past and what the miniature community is nowadays, like just normal topics of a podcast. And we always sit there, hey, we should have recorded this because it was just a good conversation. And this happens so often recently that we decide we will talk about this in the future, because blogging and typing down things takes a lot of time, preparing articles. And if you see that not many people are reading it, there's also not the greatest motivation behind it.
Right. I tell you, I'd listen to that podcast, Dan, for sure.
Oh well, yeah, of course I would too.
We can do crossover productions, Victor.
Of course.
Always. Our door is always open to you, Roman.
Yes.
Yeah. Dan, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're going to switch things up a little bit. Can we talk about how you approach a project? What do you do to decide on what miniatures to paint or what atmosphere you're going to do?
I actually only paint, at least that's what I'm telling myself all the time, I paint only what calls me. Calls me means if I see a figure and I actually directly have a vision for it, because it says, hey, I'm the barbarian and I want to stand in that lava, blah, 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 and fighting a lava dragon. When I see something like that, I paint something like that. If I don't have a vision, the miniature is often not calling me. It might call me because of, hey, I can paint great leather texture there, or I can paint interesting hair or face. That might call me. I might get this miniature for myself for painting, but very often it ends up in the drawer and I will never paint it. So I learned for myself, when I have a direct call of something where I really see the vision and have colors in front of me, an environment around the figure, even if it's a bust or something, I see a base that I want to build, then the call is so intense that I go for it.
I can appreciate that for sure.
We all have too much gray resin in our drawers. It's also part of the hobby. It's collecting. It's part of it. But I really say to myself, there's one drawer in the studio which is packed with miniatures, and I will not open up a second one. So there's only one drawer that I can fill. If this is full, then I have to just sell some other stuff that I don't paint anymore.
That's a good policy.
Yeah, I know. I like that one because I have like 15 drawers and cabinets full of stuff. We see it on the internet all the time about people who have, their giant collections of gray. And like, well, when am I ever going to get to it? Even if I do retire and do it full time, I'm never going to get to it.
You have to pick a really big drawer for that decision.
Right. Largest drawer ever. So one of the things that I always think about when I think about your work, and it's funny because I'm actually sitting here looking at the Spartan poster I got from your class that you signed for me. That's up on my wall, right next to, I guess I won a Mr. Lee's mini contest and got the Spaceman print. Those are both up on my wall for inspiration. But one of the things that's always attracted me to your work has been how heavily narrative based it is. So when you, like, you mentioned like kind of the barbarian fighting the lava, in a lava fighting a dragon, kind of how much of the story plays out in your head or in the world of pre-planning, etc.
I would say all of it. I never think, when I look at a project or I start a project, I never think in techniques like I want to paint this like that or want to paint this in this technique or something. I just go full force with the vision. The vision is my most driving force, you can say. And if the vision is good, then it becomes narrative. Because when my mind and my complete setup as a painter is focused on the vision, then I already have a story inside me that I want to tell. That's the call that I hear. And then while I paint, I don't paint miniatures to finish. That's what I always say. I paint until my vision works. So there is no technical, I'm done now with this part because I went from A to C in the technique. It's always like, is my miniature working as the vision that I saw in the beginning? If this suits and if this happens, then I'm done.
What was that line you said to us in the class? There's no such thing as a finished project, right? I think.
Was it? You just abandon the project. You can always push on, but when my vision works, I mean, this is most important because for me as a person, personally, the vision is most important for me. If I would be a painter who enjoys the technical aspect more, then the technical aspect can be an end to a project. But that's what I mean with individual painters and different people.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's interesting too. That you may, I don't know. Never mind. I'm gonna move. I can't formulate what I was gonna say, so I'll let Dan go.
No worries.
Oh, I don't even know where to go with that one. I mean, yeah, my brain is just churning so much right now. Okay. So hey, Roman, we've seen in the past where you've done a color study. For example, you paint a bunch of minis in a short amount of time, where green is like the dominant color. How often do you do these studies, and can you talk to us about the value of doing them?
Sure. I know I have my green. You can say green is my favorite color. So you will always find green stages or green phases of my work every time, because every time I don't know what to do, I paint green because I love green. Once in a while, I do focus on different tasks, not only on color studies, but color studies are important actually because they help me. For example, yellow. Yellow is a color nobody really wants to paint because yellow is pain in the butt to be painted. So when you study and focus on something like that and you grow in this task, you will gain from it, of course, because you understand the topic of painting or the approach on painting yellow better. So I can say maybe it's also a little bit about my mood. So it depends on when very often when the seasons change, and in winter I do like to paint winter projects. So I have a lot of blue projects and cold projects. in spring and summer, I get influenced by the nature, my environment, and these things will impact my painting. So maybe 2 or 3 months afterwards, but every time the things that my eyes see and encounter in real life, they will have impact on my painting after a certain time period. So, and you will benefit from it because when you focus on things, not only on color studies, but also on technical aspects, focus for a longer time on something, you will grow from it because you will have click moments. So there's definitely value in it.
That's very cool. If you don't mind us asking, I'd love to talk a little bit about a specific project that you're currently working on. When I first saw your work in progress picture of it that was black and white, I have to admit I thought it was a still frame from a zombie movie. But can you talk to us about the massive zombie scene that you're working on, kind of how it started? And I know that for a while you were collecting painted zombies from different painters, and so.
Yep. I mean, it started actually working on this project. It started with also a vision and a lesson. So the vision was I really wanted to create the biggest zombie diorama ever. I had this vision in my head with a bridge and 1,000 zombies climbing up there. And up there should be a very, very interesting and dramatic scene. And the lesson was learned from doing such a big project earlier with the Last Light diorama about Space Marines and Paranoids. And the lesson learned there was like, I cannot do this again in 3 months. I need time for it. So for the zombie project, I started with, okay, I need time for this. And I calculated and planned it a little bit better than the Last Light. And in my calculations, I needed around 400 zombies. And then I started painting a zombie. It took me 2 hours, and I was like, okay, this will take a lifetime. So from it, I forced myself to paint a zombie in 15 minutes with a certain speed painting technique that I, in the meantime, also teach. And then I also found out, okay, now I've painted 60 zombies, but I still need more. I need help. So I opened up this question on Massive Voodoo, explained the project a little bit. And so many great people from workshops, from the internet, sent me zombies, painted zombies, to be able to build this project, actually. And in the meantime, I mean, it's now out there since 5 years. I was collecting zombies for 5 years now. And just recently moved studio. And I was sitting there in the new studio with a friend of mine, with Johannes. And I was sitting there and telling him how much I love to be in a new studio and how much good energies I have there. And I told him also I would like to start with the zombie diorama because it's standing around since a while and I would really love to start with it. And there was silence. And I had to decide, okay, now you can talk about it again or you just start. So now after 5 years, I just decided to start and it's just crazy. It's so unbelievable. So much joy because you feel like an art director actually saying, hey, these are the zombies I got painted with all the help from all these great people. And now I built the base and now I do the composition. And it's not like you have to paint one zombie after the other. It's just like, okay, I'm placing this guy here. Okay, Elvis zombie has to be there. The firefighter will be there. So they're more like an art director doing the art direction of this movie scene. And it's an absolutely great experience. And I'm so much enjoy working on it. And we'll actually finish it in the next couple of weeks. I'm so thankful to everybody who just helped me there. And it's also from the emotional aspect, it's a bigger diorama than just a diorama. It's like so many people are involved there. So I can imagine having this piece on a show where people walk around and say, hey, there's mine. Oh, over here, there's mine. Oh, mine is hidden. Oh, there's the Harry Potter zombie. So, and this is something that connects on a different level.
That's pretty cool. I want to go back to something, and man, I hope this doesn't open up a can of worms or anything. So I apologize if we go down some different kind of rabbit hole. But you were talking about your environment and feelings.
Yep.
And how important is it to have the right environment? It may seem like a basic question, but we see people like, hey, I have my desk, and it just doesn't feel right. Or I sit at the kitchen table. Some people have elaborate ones. Some folks have simple setups. But how important is the environment to help to motivate and to continue and have that energy to continue painting?
I think it's a good question, then. Really good question. I think very important. I'm doing this as a job, so I'm sitting in this environment very often, and my environment changed. So changed, for example, on one hand, it changed because in small things. Oh, my water pot is too far away. When I'm painting, and I always think my water pot is too far away. I'm annoyed by it. Then I have to move it closer. So this already changes my environment. But also, I need to feel comfortable in the big picture. If I would have to go to my painting place and set up everything before I paint, there would be a blockade, and I would say, today I don't paint because I don't want to set everything up. I really want to sit down there. I even change clothes there because I want to wear clothes where I can just smear or smash color on it. So I don't care. I really want to be completely focused on painting. I don't want any distraction. For me, I cannot sit down and say, hey, I'm painting for 10 minutes now. I actually need about 1 or 1.5 hours to arrive in my happy space and arrive there mentally and physically to be able to paint. Also, my eyes adjust while painting. In the first half hour, I just do rough work. And the more I paint, after 4 hours, I see a different level of details. So that's also what I need. I need to arrive in my focus, you can say. So I think the environment is really important. If there are too many distractions or something else, then it's hard to focus. And without focus, you don't enjoy that much. You might not get the results you want. So focus is a very important thing, and it comes from also environment.
Oh boy, that's some deep stuff, man. So just out of curiosity, you did say a couple things about getting into your focus and adjusting and not having external I guess things bothering you. Are there any kind of like rituals or routines that you do to prepare for your painting for your own personal painting? I know when you're getting ready for a class, it's a different kind of mindset. But when you're ready for yourself, is there anything special that you do?
Not really, you can say. I mean, what I do like is I do like to have I clean up after a day of painting. I clean up my table, and not always, but 80%. I clean up my stuff, and then I have a focus already when I sit there for the next session. So this helps me. When I'm in the middle of a project, I'm in the meantime I have some tablets where I just place different projects and put them on my workbench to be able to switch them faster. It's also a question of space, of course, but cleaning up does help me. Also sorting brushes, cleaning water. For example, I have some plants in the studio, and they only get watered with paint water. So when I'm going there, they survive really well since years now. I love them. So this can be a small ritual, you can say. When I arrive, I change paint water, clean up, and water the plants, speak with them. I'm thankful that they make my studio more beautiful, and then I get new water and so on. So there's a circle of sometimes in the meantime, in my actual new studio, I have a really big window, a little bit out of nature, and there are 2 horses far away on a field. I sit there and sometimes just drink a coffee and watch them before I start painting. So to calm down, to let some life struggles or some things that are in your mind just pass away, and just watch clouds and happy little clouds.
Nice.
It's so zen, man.
I know, right? And you know, I think it was inevitable that a Bob Ross reference was going to happen, you know.
But I mean, it can be different too. It can be okay. Right now I was in quarantine. I really am looking forward to go to the studio tomorrow. It might happen tomorrow that I just ignore the plans, that I throw in some heavy metal music and just kick ass. So there is no golden meditation rule for that. It just depends on my mood.
I was going to ask if you some people like having absolute quiet and some people have to have background noise.
No. That's a lightning round question.
Oh,
That's
is
a lightning
it?
round
Darn
question.
it, I didn't
You're
even
getting ahead of yourself.
Okay, we'll wait.
Well, you got to wait on that one for sure. Well, actually, we can. You know, it's a good time to do it now. I warned you a little bit about it before Roman, but one of the segments that we like to do is get artists off the top of their head impressions and answers to a question. So we call it a lightning round. And so we're going to ask a question and just give us the answer that comes to the top of your off the top of your head.
I will do.
All right. So when was the last time you mistook your drink for your paint water?
Never.
See,
wow.
It's you the second person in a row that said that. Never. Okay. Damn. All right.
What's the noise you make when you put too much super glue on something?
Yeah. Sorry, I remember that from the class. We had to have that in here. So we kind of asked this before, but true metallics or non-metallics, and why?
I actually paint a hybrid. I paint both at the same time, kind of. The techniques from both mixed. It's a little bit weird. But I tend more to true metallic metals because I like to see the difference also when I have the model in hand, that the lights play on what I've painted. And I'm also a little bit, I wouldn't say lazy, but I'm not too patient to really paint non-metallic metal. I do it once in a while. I taught it already to students, but my thing is the true metallic metal with a touch of non-metallic metal in there for the rules, like how you place shadow and highlights and everything. And I call it a hybrid that makes me happy.
Nice. Okay. What is German humor?
There is none.
All right. Basketball or soccer?
Basketball.
Beer, wine, or liquor?
Depends on my mood.
Nice. What is your favorite sound to make while painting?
Bam, 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 bam.
First one that comes to mind. What model do you want to paint next?
Zombie Diorama. Finishing the three little survivors that are important for the dramatic scene. That's what I want to do next.
Oh, so the ratio is like 3 to 400? 3 survivors, 400 zombies?
Oh, so I have a...
Yep. Please, go ahead.
So, hey, yes, I have a follow-up. So you have everybody else painting the zombies. Are you going to be the only artist for the survivors then?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
That's only me. I will just use hassle-free miniatures up there.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, there are 3 already placed, like survivors who are actually lost up there. And I had Kevin James White, the sculptor of hassle-free, sculpt something for me that I had in mind for the dramatic situation up there. So I commissioned him. And he's not usually doing commissions, so it was hard to kind of make him do it. But the outcome was beautiful, and I just received them 2 days before my quarantine started. So I'm sitting on fire at the moment and really want to go there and to do because then when these 3 are done, they are the main storytellers, narratives up there, and then I will see how much more I will add.
Nice.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work at all, I would just remove all of them, place Batman and the T-Rex. And
Nice. Would it be Batman riding a T-Rex? No.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or the other way around. I don't know.
All right, so we just have a couple more lightning round questions. He goes, so What do you do while painting? A, listen to a podcast or audiobook. B, listen to music. C, watch or listen to YouTube. Or D, you paint in total and complete silence.
It's everything except A. I listen to music. I watch some movies, YouTube videos once in a while, and I sometimes paint in complete silence. I just don't listen to podcasts or audiobooks because I got so focused on what's going on there. Like my mind is traveling and journeying into the vision of what I hear that I cannot focus on painting so much. So it's mainly music, sometimes silence, and once in a while when I have to push through hard work, you can say, then I'm watching, finishing The Walking Dead television series or something on my tablet.
Nice.
All right, last lightning round question. Have you ever yelled at one of your miniatures while painting?
Nope.
Man, I guess I might be the only person.
Nah, I yell at mine all the time. That or my brush. It's not doing what I ask it to do.
Most of the time I yell at them when I'm trying to put them together. That's like my huge weakness is that super glue just doesn't seem to stick for me. Well, thank you, Roman, for being a good sport and being a part of the lightning round. That's we try to spice things up a little bit, as well as spicy as Dan and I get. We just have a few more questions for you. We don't want to keep you too long because I don't want to be the one that keeps you from working on that zombie diorama for sure. But one of the things that you've been very open about, and I have to tell you, has hit home so many times with me, and that's kind of dealing with painter's block or life situations getting in the way of painting. Are there some things that you could kind of help our listeners with, like give them maybe some techniques to try or things to do to kind of work their way out of those things? And I'm definitely listening with very open ears.
It's basically said simple, you can say. You need to learn patience. Patience, not with your miniatures or your techniques or something. If you have a painter's block, you need to learn patience with yourself. A painter's block is coming from something, maybe you're moving home and you get distracted or disconnected to something, to yourself, or you have a breakup or something, you have a hard loss and grief or something. Many things can lead to a painter's block, or you just painted so hard the last couple of months that you don't have any battery of painting left, and you need to recharge this with new inspiration, with something different. So what you have to learn in this situation is patience with yourself. There is no need, as soon as you feel you have to force yourself to do something, you will not benefit from it. That's what I learned, and for me, it's also a job. So sometimes I'm really happy that I can teach, that I love to teach most of the time. So there's no, even if I have a painter's block, I can teach painting. So, but painting is such a personal thing when you sit down and work with colors and learn and grow, that if you're disconnected to it, it doesn't make sense to do it. So, and do something else. Do something else what makes you happy. Hang out with friends, play a computer game, watch a movie, go out in nature, go for a hike for a week, do something completely different that recharges yourself, and be patient with yourself. My longest painting block was for, I would say, mostly a complete full year. I did paint in these days, in these times, but I really didn't felt comfortable with my painting. I had to paint because it's my job, but that's also where I learned patience, where I learned to be more patient with my results. I had to accept I'm in the middle of a painting block now. What I paint right now is something other people might like. I personally don't like it, but that's okay. I do paint because I need to. It's my job, so once in a while have to do my job too. But then the painting fun comes back after a while. You just have to be patient. And this is actually, you can say I'm doing this now for almost 2 decades. And in the industry, working as a professional, it's kind of a circle. It kind of you exhaust yourself, you need to recharge. You exhaust yourself, you need to recharge. You need to find new inspiration. You can finish a certain project when you learn something new, or when you grew a step or level, or you leveled up. So it's a circle that repeats, kind of, which is a beautiful circle. That's also something you have to learn with patience to accept this. Yep.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. Hey, Dan, I'm going to step in really quickly because I want to make sure I ask this question. I meant to do it as a follow-up when we were talking about it before, but you had mentioned before that you'd worked with a student on Frank Francetta's work. Are there other artists outside of the world of miniature painting that you look to for inspiration? I actually picked up a brush and started going crazy after just walking through the Van Gogh experience a couple of weeks ago. And so I know that got me fired up. I don't know if there are any other artists out there that you look to.
There are. For example, what really struck me was when I was in Madrid at Alfonso's place, and he took me to the art museum there, and I saw Velázquez paintings for real for the first time. It was so impressive that I was completely we were going through this art museum, and Alfonso was talking for 2 hours. We were close to getting kicked out. But it was awesome. I got so silent because I was so impressed by the power of light Velázquez paints, and the strength of color, and the power of light, you can say. It was awesome seeing these things in real. I also love James Gurney. James Gurney taught me a lot by just that I'm able to follow his work. He did the Dinotopia books and everything, and he's really, in my eyes, he's one of the best teachers out there when it comes to illustration and paintings, because he finds the right words for me that I understand properly and that I can transfer to my way of painting. And who's also a great painter, I have to name him, is Bob Ross. Bob Ross is just about joy, and this is the most important aspect. No matter his paintings or whatsoever, it's also personal taste, but how he transported joy is something unique and very important. Nowadays, it changes. I don't follow one painter for the rest of my life. I'm impressed by these things, but what really struck me, I never got really into modern art. But then in Madrid, I also saw Picasso, the bombing of Guernica.
Oh yeah,
in real for the first time, and it's in one room alone. It's 9 meters and 9 meters wide and 4 or 5 meters high, and it's there alone in that room. I went in that room and I felt all the pain he put in that painting. I felt it, even if it's not my style, the modern art approach, and I was close to crying in there, which was really crazy. I never got struck by a painting like this. This was really super interesting and fascinates me until today. Whom I also like at the moment is Mark Majori. He does a lot of Western art, like cowboys and Native Americans paintings. He's also on Instagram, very successful, and he's painting these Arizona and Texas. Now I would say it's more Arizona clouds when the sun sets and everything, and he's just doing crazy paintings that I really find very inspiring. So there are many painters. I would even say, don't get me wrong, no offense in there. In the meantime, I do look at painters, canvas painters, more on learning something new than on miniature painting, because creating something in 2D, where you don't have the volumes, where you have to form the volumes with what you do with color and light, there's more to learn, I would even say, than just from miniature painting. It all melts together. You learn from drawing, you learn from photography, you learn from so many different things, and everything melts together. But for me, nowadays, I do look more on canvas painting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So many different ways we can go with that.
Yeah, I know,
Jeez.
right?
I was like, man, I can think of like 5 million other questions, but we're running out of time, and we know that your time is valuable also. So we want to end the show real quick with something that we do with everyone. Is the motto of our podcast is better, braver, happier painters. Could you give our listeners at least a bit of advice on how they can continue their painting journeys?
Simple. Just do things with joy. If you don't feel the joy, stop it. Or change it. Yep.
Perfect. Simple, perfect, succinct. So Roman, big news for you happening, right? You started an Etsy page, right? Like you have an Etsy store now, right?
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. So, can you tell our listeners kind of where to find you?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram, Roman Lappat Miniature Art. You can find me on Etsy with my very young Etsy store there, where I mainly focus on teaching. So there will not be merch or something. It will just be about PDFs that are affordable and very didactical, set up to certain topics. This is a great, interesting journey for me at the moment, and I thank everyone who supported me so far. Some art prints here and there, and then you can find me on massivevoodoo.com, the blog. There's still a free tutorial section with over 450 plus tutorials for free. You can find me on YouTube also. There's the Massive Voodoo TV channel where you mainly find 360 degrees videos in 4K of miniatures that I've painted. And yeah, I'm on Facebook too, but you can say Instagram is mainly where everything. I have my own homepage, of course, romanlappat.com, where you see a collection of whatever I've painted and the services I offer. But on Instagram, you can say everything comes together to a peak where you get most of the information, you can say.
Now, is the book still available?
The book is still available. I got around, but it's like we just had a limited print run. So that means I got around 50 left in the studio that I mainly use to sell on workshops. And Mr. Lee's minis does have some left, but I think also not so many anymore. And he's sending them out from the UK. So there's actually an art book that you can get, but on a limited print run. So check it out on mrlees.com or in Europe on pkpro.de or come to my workshop and I sign you one.
There we go. For sure. Excellent. Hopefully the Nova Open will happen this year and you get a chance to come and bring some books with you too.
It would be. I really miss seeing all of you guys and hanging out and talking about miniatures and drink a beer together and something like that. I really miss that. I mean, everybody does.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Roman, for taking the time to be on the show. It really has been an honor.
Yes, it has. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Dan and I would like to thank Roman Lappat for joining us today. What an amazing experience it was getting a chance to talk to him. We really appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule. I know things are starting to ramp up again for artists in this world as we're moving kind of into the next phase of whatever this is, pandemic. You can find him first and foremost on massivevoodoo.com. Check it out. It's got over 400 tutorials. I know it's not a video, it's not flashy, but man, it's amazing to have that stuff right in front of you, read it and see pictures. And the people that have written them, including Roman, are all fantastic artists. You can also find him on Instagram at Roman Lappat Miniature Art, as well as if you need inspiration and environmental kind of joy, check out Tale of the Banana Whale on Instagram. He's also on Facebook with Roman Lappat Miniature Art. Finally, though, we'll say this too. We want to congratulate him on opening up his Etsy store. He has a bunch of tutorials that you can download. Once that payday hits next week, I'm going to hit some more downloads on that. They are fantastic. His skills at teaching from the classroom translate into these PDFs as well. So, I don't know. If you're not following Roman's artwork and his process, you don't know what you're missing.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Listening to Paint Dry or on Twitter at Dry Listening. Dry Listening. with Mike and Dan. We also have a YouTube channel which is appropriately titled Listening to Paint Dry with Mike and Dan. I don't really know what's on it, but we have it. Please subscribe. Please like, subscribe, or follow us wherever you get your podcast. If you can leave us a positive review, that would really help the show out.
Right, and drop us a line at listeningtopaintdry@gmail.com. Hey, it's been 2 years. Have you been there with us the whole time? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know how we're doing. It would be really fantastic to see what you're working on. So thank you so much. We love all of our listeners. Patience is a virtue, but it's also the key to becoming a better, braver, happier painter.
See ya.
Listening to Paint Dry with Mike and Dan is a production of LTPTWMD. All rights reserved. No portion of this recording may be used without the express written consent of the host. The music is Death by a Thousand Questions by Springtide. Download from the Free Music Archive on a non-commercial attribution share-alike basis. All views and opinions expressed in the show are solely the views and opinions of the person who said them. All celebrity voices, if any, were impersonated and done so poorly.